Welcome. This is the second session of Edge of Call, and we just got a new person coming in. Sarah's coming, and we are here with the second section. The first session, we had all 8 people in the class, or 7 people, plus me, and we now have just a couple more to complete that again. Hello, Sarah. Welcome. And so
Hi.
I would like to outline in today's session, I think 3 or 4 parts. Let me check here in the session. We'll look at Brian Alexander's syllabus reactions as a first thing. And then I think what I'll do is I'll have a short presentation on what I call fire hose management. And then we'll talk about RSS feed reactions. Then we'll look at next week, the kind of a short introduction to tech adoption styles or processes. And finally, look at note-taking, the tech for next week. So basically, the 2 main things are the syllabus reactions and the RSS feed reactions. If we don't get to the RSS feed reactions, no problem. We can, no worries. But if we do, then fine. We can either leave it for next week or go on. But so there's no, how do you say it, pressure as far as time pressure. And I'd like you to get into this as much as you're interested in the syllabus reaction. The reason that I assigned the syllabus reaction was to give a kind of a broad kind of look at educational technology and to have you pick out something. And because I believe in active learning, to have you kind of bring what is most important to you here to this class. And then we can all discuss it and give our take on each of those things. I hope that's acceptable. And so I think with just 6 of us, we don't need to break into other groups or anything. If we go to 8, I think we might think about that, but let's just cruise on. And I know Hugh was able to finally post something. It was held up, and Maria tried to post something ahead of time. The others may have something. So Catherine posted something early on in the week about podcasting, but there are many different issues here in the Alexander's syllabus. And so what I'd like to do is kind of turn it over to you guys, and each of you, if you have something, to bring it forward, and what kind of piqued your interest and why did it pique your interest, and to do that. Does anybody want to go first?
I was going to say Sarah posted something interesting as well.
Okay. Did I really? I haven't seen that.
Right?
Gosh.
Yeah, I did. But I learned an important lesson that you should always put it in Word, so you have an extra copy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
It was
Yes, I do
forbidden.
remember that.
Like I lost the first time I wrote it, so just a word of advice.
Exactly the same happened to me, Sarah. But this is another lesson.
Really apologize for this. This has, we had an old system that this happened to, and so we just upgraded to a new system. And Barbara's trying to wrestle with both the old and the new system and get them coordinated so that the messages, they still don't have threading included. And yes, it's a mess, and I apologize for that. If this continues, I may actually consider moving the discussion to another platform like Moodle, which I can really manage much easily. But for now, let's stay here. So, Sarah, what did you have for us for this week?
I looked at your quintet, like I had initially. I had written in the post. I afterwards make sure just that you could see the post, that you know that it's visible for you for the next time around. So first I just kind of skimmed everything, and I also skimmed the quintet, but it didn't really speak to me. But then I went back after you mentioned it, and I started pressing all the links on the document.
Right.
And then there was a really, really good YouTube by the founder. That whole PowerPoint is his, whatever his name is, Ruben or Ruben P, a long name at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was, because you see all the pictures, you don't understand what it is in the PowerPoint. And the YouTube was excellent. I
Mhm.
showed it to my boss. He even wants to show it at the staff meeting. But
Oh,
it made
okay.
me, it made me, no, it made me realize that what we're having today isn't anything like wow and amazing. It's just a continuation of our development in terms of our needs.
Mhm.
And it really changed the way I look at things, these 5 lenses. I thought it was really interesting. So it got me thinking.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. I did note, I put that in as an example, but then did note that actually we'll be looking at stuff like this at TPAC. This is next week's homework, really. So you're getting a head up on next week's homework, because we're going to look at things like SAMR, SAMR, and TPAC, and the different ways of how to transition from a regular classroom into a more tech related classroom.
Yeah, but I
And
knew the models. I knew the models, but it was just interesting to go back thousands of years and see that the types of functions that are being used today have always existed. It's just
Mhm,
it's more technology now. So that was the new thing that I learned from it.
Mhm.
right. Yes, yes. So the post itself was this quintet is a way to relate SAMR and TPAC and the other kind of tech adoption things. And I'm glad you were able to find the video, and I may ask you to post that the video specifically, so that next week we can look at that.
Yeah, I had live links in there. I spoke to Barbara, but they didn't work. So
Okay.
she said she said that it happened to you too. So, but I could
Right.
definitely post it. Just tell me where and I'll post it. Not a problem.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Okay. Good, Sarah. Thank you. Anyone else? Andrea, we just we're looking at different things that people have found in Brian Alexander's syllabus.
Uh, a lot of stuff there, by the way. I only had
Yeah.
a chance to look at some SAMR and TPAC. I'm not very sure why all the stuff is there, because some stuff I think is outdated. But anyway. Interesting. What I didn't post anything, but I did make notes. So I did my homework, but didn't send it, basically. I tried to build a timeline and with SAMR and TPAC and see how we introduced them, when, where, how, what tools we used. So I do have the timeline. And it's funny that in the SAMR, substitution came afterwards. So it was the last one. We didn't use digital materials. We used paper materials like textbooks and worksheets, but everything else was somehow transferred to, some apps. We used apps and an LMS, but the last thing to do was to build the digital materials. And all the digital materials that are on the market today are very they're not adopted to, they just took the course books and basically turned them put them on the screen. But on the screen, you have this landscape view and everything is a portrait view, and lots of things don't work. And I use with a lot of digital material anyway. So we just decided to do PowerPoints instead.
Okay. Yes. Substitution, again, we'll talk about this more next week, because that's actually, that was a bad example for me to put into the syllabus, because it is for next week, but that's no matter. SAMR, I think with any particular material or activity, you can adapt in different levels, and that's what it's talking about. And whether, it's more radical, more digital, there's more of a transition depends on one of those 4 levels. And again, we'll talk more about that next week.
May I add something?
Sure. That's what we're here for.
Being a secondary school teacher, I've never been a university professor actually, and I'm looking at all these articles differently than all the rest here, and I'm looking for something which is clear to me, and well, the methods, that is number one, and then Brian Alexander mentioned that he has always been into something new. And somebody asked why the material from 2005 is included into his seminars. Yes, but the message to me was, and he explained that if you find something which works well with the students or the learners, why change something? So you should use what's appropriate in the context. That is what I liked, but all the rest acronyms there, the names of all these modern technologies are just it will take time for me to learn about that.
Yes. Okay.
That-
Resilience is one of the things. If you're adopting technology, everybody fails and continues to fail. And they say fail quick, fail fast, and fail better. So that keep going, even though you make mistakes. That's a very common thing. That's why they have so many different drafts in technology of everything. Hugh, do you have anything?
Well, I jumped into the SAMR and the quintet resources later this afternoon and was kind of intrigued trying to get my head around in what ways I've been doing things over the years and what directions I could go towards in the future. I mean, I've been using Moodle forever, it seems, and mostly on the sort of substitution augmentation levels. But I think I followed Sarah's suggestion and went to the YouTube videos, and the introduction that Ruben Puentedura gave was really nice, about 6 minutes only. And there was another one about the 4 C's. And I found another longer TED talk about 4 C's of 21st century learning. I think what is it? Creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration are the 4 points raised in different orders. And the guy on the TED talk is talking about choice. And the one, my basic challenge is, how do I deal with all my large classes, especially in a semester where I'm super busy, like 13 comma, and it's exhausting. And and I can't, you can't possibly give even 10 minutes feedback to 400 or 500 students a week. There's just not, there aren't enough hours, and
unless you automate the feedback.
Oh, okay. So that's
that
where
comes
we
late.
go.
That comes later in the class. Yes.
Okay. So AI to automate feedback.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Very, very interesting. I've probably downloaded 5 to 10 new books this past week, partly based on reference
syllabus
in the syllabus. Yeah.
Oh, he recommended the main text in the syllabus is by Selwyn about using technology. I had read the first edition, and I went back and I bought the third edition because it was on the syllabus this time. And it's third, and it's completely different, almost completely different than the first edition. And it's really, really good, a good reference. So a very good kind of general text, but it doesn't ever get down to language teaching. And, to find something like that is really, really difficult.
though I mean, I posted a response to that particular question, and I'm thinking, actually, maybe that's not necessary. I mean, the practical nuts and bolts we have to get down to language teaching, but the bigger picture questions of pedagogy, engagement, how to create a more supportive environment for student interactivity, I think is basic. So I'm not unhappy about the sort of general pedagogical approaches.
There is some overlap. Some people would kind of stress the differences between language learning and other types of learning. But and that gets really stressed when you throw technology into the mix. And so you really have to have a good definition of how those are different or alike, and what kind of things you want to apply from general ed tech into language teaching or call.
Mm.
So you mentioned SAMR, and I think people are getting into that, and again next week. But the 4 levels of SAMR, we could just do them this week right now. Substitution, I think, is where you get, and again, watch the video, right, Sarah, the one she found. But substitution is when you take something and just put it on the web or make it digital. So a PDF of a reading or a PDF of a quiz would be an example of substitution. And then augmentation is when you add a little bit of extra. You might have the PDF with a video attached to it, and then have the quiz with the video, for example. That is something that would augment something that would be non-digital, and make it like that. But then there's a kind of a dotted line, which gets into the M and the R, and I'm blanking on M and R. What
Modification, and
Modification, that's right.
definition.
Yes, and redefinition. So the modification is where you radically change it, and you do something that is only possible online. Yes, it would be impossible to do on paper or outside of the situation. And then redefinition is that there's absolutely no connection to whatever was non-digital, and you're kind of creating completely in the digital world. So those are the 4 levels. But most people, Andrea was saying that her school kind of put the substitution right at the end with the materials, and they were doing management beforehand with the other levels. Most people start out with the substitution, and then they move on to the augmentation, then modification, then finally redefinition. And so it's kind of like a stair step progression from one to the other. That's at least how I understand it anyway.
I just want to add that he mentions somewhere in that list, you got something on connectivism. And I think the 3rd level modification has to do with connectivism, because that's the thing you couldn't do before. You have these forums, you've got these discussions, which you couldn't have. I mean, some people used WhatsApp or something similar, but now you've got everything in one place. In the article I read, they stress the importance of grading and instant feedback and everything else. But I think that what LMS brings with it is this possibility of students to interact with one another outside outside the classroom. And it's not easy to engage people in discussion forums without, actually saying, okay, this is something you have to do. You have to include it on the to-do list. But it turns out we're experimenting with something now, and students are very responsive, even with lower levels. I'm talking about A1, A2 levels, and they seem, the stuff we post seems to spark discussion. I mean, some people participate, others don't, but if you can't somehow integrate the topics of the discussion in the next session, then they will be even more motivated, because if people start talking about take the discussion from the online environment to the face-to-face environment or live environment, then they're more motivated. So it's easy to say, yes, let's use forums, but the truth is it's very difficult to engage people in forum discussions, especially with language learning.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. There is a couple of things that I've done that work really well with lower level students. I do what's called a photo club. And we have a social media thing called Line, very similar to WhatsApp. And just have them post a picture each week. And there's a theme like food or rivers or whatever each week. And so the students either post a picture or comment on someone else's. And pretty soon the pictures become less relevant and the language and the comments become more relevant. And so it's a nice connection. And that, yes, is something that a good modification of a in class discussion, or bring a picture and talk about it. I do that with
Andrea,
music as
excuse
well.
me,
Go ahead.
were you talking about synchronous and asynchronous activities, something?
yep, yep. So basically, you can start at this. You can post one example would be we post a phrase, let's say English B1, and there's a phrase of the week, which is, well, B1, let me think, something B1. Anyway, it's a phrase, there's a question that kind of invites the students to use the phrase or not. And then at some point, after you've got 5 or 6 phrases or something, you start the next class with a game that is connected to the phrases, or that includes some questions from the contributions. And it's really nice. It's really, and it doesn't take long to make or to, it's very easy.
So it's curious that, yeah, synchronous and asynchronous, something to do in class or at the same time. And these kind of discussions, when you make them asynchronous, they become modification in the SAMR model. Yeah. Take it outside of the classroom. One of the biggest advantage of doing online work.
Kevin, do you think Line is better than a Moodle forum or some other platform
Yes,
for
I
the
do.
photo club?
Yes. Yeah. The students, everybody has Line already, and they're familiar and comfortable with it. And they all seem willing to use their own accounts to that. So there's less of a security concern. And yeah, so I've tried doing it in Moodle, and because it's kind of a clunky interface and just they're not used to it. And so, yeah, that's why I do Line for that kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, what's Line?
Oh, it's kind of like WhatsApp. It's a similar, messaging app.
Well, but
Yeah, for us,
it's
it's
like,
a problem.
Like
okay,
Viber?
it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry.
like
It's
Viber.
like, yeah, like Viber. Is it, well, what I'm concerned about is that, well, I don't know, actually. I live like in a rural area. It is a small town, and schools do not have any special like Moodle systems or something. The only thing we have is just for distant learning in case of COVID or other situations. When we cannot go to school, we have only Zoom. And as LMS, most teachers have only Viber. And well, if schools are not interested in setting up some rules or changing their attitude towards technology, for a separate teacher individual, it's very difficult to switch to all this. And well, it's on when it's on the policy, school's policy, it's different. And probably only universities are privileged to have had all these, and they have been into these modern technologies. So all we use is just YouTube, TED Talks, and my students do Pecha presentations, then Powtoon presentations, and TED Talks, nothing else, you know? That's...
Well, I think, yes, I mean, that sounds like a lot to me. I do teacher training in Myanmar, where we have, the teachers have phones and some of the students have phones. And we use a lot less than what you're using. the application, and it seems like you're doing quite a bit. You can, and just applying, and the usefulness is the most important thing, not the quantity. You know,
Yeah.
just,
Thank
yeah.
you. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, yeah, I was just making a comment about yours, just that, yeah, it's the quality, not the quantity. And it's important. Balancing out the mix between each class, how much technology you use in the class shouldn't be real consideration. The pedagogy should be more important. Whatever your goals happen to be, then you can, if technology works with that goal, then use it.
And if the technology works, because sometimes not everybody, that's the issue most of the time.
Like our message forums here, yes.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to comment on Brian Alexander's syllabus? We're almost halfway through.
Who is it for? It was very difficult for me to see, to find the audience and the purpose of all that. Who participates in that seminar? Are they like teachers who have zero knowledge about technology? Are they
They're
sent there by their
graduate
Okay.
students at Georgetown University, which is a kind of a private, very high level university in Washington, DC. George, and so graduate students they're not teachers. They're interested in teaching, or at least managing teaching situations. So yeah,
Andrea,
they
it
don't
was
have any experience
mentioned,
as teachers yet.
in this syllabus for 2022, it was mentioned that it's
didn't know.
about graduate students. Yes, postgraduate students.
So basically, people with no experience in teaching, and
Right.
he's teaching them how to adopt. I would imagine that his students might, know a lot more about technology and integrating technology than he does, because nowadays most people use technology. I mean, but yeah.
Well, he's written books about using technology in class, so he does know quite a bit. Maybe perhaps not the latest little thing, but I think the overall, yes, he's got a good idea.
And there are
pedagogy
videos on
parts.
YouTube. Videos on YouTube. You can watch him talk on different topics on YouTube. I've come across.
He has a future trends, future learning, a forum that he does pretty much about once a week with leaders in education and technology. So if you go to his website, he announces that, or it's there. And you can, the thing about Chat GPT that he had with some leaders about a month ago was really, really good. But he regularly meets with a lot of different people. He's primarily a futurologist, or he consults with universities about future of education. Right now he's focusing on global warming and that kind of thing. But before, and he's written books about digital storytelling and other in-class stuff. So yeah, it's got a lot of chops there.
Because from my point of view, there's this hype, we have to teach with technology. We have to integrate technology. And I think this is the wrong way to look at things. I think the way we should do it is, let's look at the pedagogy first, and let's see which things we can do easier or better with using technology. Using technology, making it the purpose of anything doesn't sound right to me. And I know, because I've been through that. When we introduced it, everybody had like this goal to use some kind of app during the lesson. And I asked, why? Why do we have to have all these Kahoots, Bamboozles, Bluekits, or whatever? It doesn't say we only use them when needed. We don't have to use them all the time. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Because students like them. Well, students like ice cream, and we don't bring ice cream to class either. I mean, it's like we have to find a balance. And I think that all these apps, whenever I go to a conference or to a webinar, people are throwing around, names of apps. This does this, this does that. Wait, stop. What exactly do we need them for? I mean, is it worth it? Because sometimes it's not worth it.
Right.
It actually complicates things more. It's easier to give out a printed worksheet than try to create one in live worksheets, which takes like forever. Why would you do it? It beats the purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
It
I mean,
has to make our lives easier and the students' lives easier and the learning
Right.
experience more enjoyable.
Yes, yes, exactly. I mean, for example, I started using Moodle in the classroom to be able to have students work outside of the classroom and spend more time and get more exposure during the week. So I'd have 3 or 4 deadlines during the week that they would have to do something so that it, you know, maintained exposure and got the momentum going like that. I found that there's how does the university culture it really works against that, where everybody does the homework for the class for the next day, each day, you know. So if you have, and it's kind of rude to expect students to do anything more than the evening before your class. The other thing was that I recently, I had an online class, completely online. I brought it into the classroom after the pandemic, and I said, look, you guys can do it outside of class and you can talk to me and we can have discussions about this material and work on that, or you can just work on it here in class. And the overwhelming majority of students would just sit there and work on it in class. Such a waste of time. They would come all the way into school and work online in class, you know, and do that. And you know, I tried to encourage them to come out, but some were very comfortable. They didn't have to, you know, interact with other people or online. And so partially it's you know, personality, that kind of thing. To give flexibility is another reason. Yeah. But the overall arching idea of this course, FILM, the find your information, we're still in the find step. And the next step will start next week, or actually in 2 weeks, is investigate, where the goal of today's class was to have you look at a lot of different things and kind of, ooh, this is interesting, that's interesting, get you excited about that. But then the next step is to go and look at that, investigate, is it worth it? Do I want to spend time on developing or learning a new system or a new tool before I can use it? And so, yeah, it's a critical. So you're getting a fire hose of information right now through I'm going to, this is a great segue into the presentation that I was going to give short, let me share my screen. Let's see. There we go. And go to fire hose maintenance. And let's see, present view. Okay, I'm sorry, got the wrong window here.
But see the presentation.
Can you see it now? Oop, wait a minute, that's the wrong one. Audience window, there we go. There we go. And so you can see the presentation, fire hose maintenance?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So in data science, they talk about the fire hose and trying to drink from a fire hose, and it's so much information, it's overwhelming. You probably run across that as far as social media and things like that. So, and that's what you've done this week. I gave you this RSS feed with RSS tool with lots of different feeds, and it's been like a fire hose. So I just wanted to point out there, you need to manage that information generally in a scientific form. And we'll just talk about the RSS feed as one example of how to manage this fire hose of information. Okay, management. You have to get the right amount of the information to the right places at the right time. Those 3 different aspects are important so that this information coming in through the RSS feed is valuable and not a waste of time. And so the first technique, and I posted to Catherine about this, is to reduce your feeds. If you have too many feeds, just cut it down and focus on the ones that are most useful for you. And gradually you can add other feeds that you discover in conferences or on discussion boards or things like that. Go to YouTube, and they have lots of different, best podcasts for ed tech, et cetera, things like that. There's all different ways to add, but curate to kind of garden. You're growing a garden here, and you want to get the best plants to be able to have the best diet. One other way is to specialize. This ed tech is very broad, so you might want to specialize, for example, on assessment, or just choose one different thing and then just ignore the rest. One nice thing about the RSS feed, you can just let it pile up, and you can have, don't worry about that. I have hundreds of messages in there sometimes, and on busy weeks, I'll let it go until the weekend. Other times I'll do it more often. Building a schedule, and say, okay, I'm going to do this a little bit every day, or on Saturday mornings, I'm going to, sit down and just do it once a week or whatever. That really helps out to keep your messages. Look at the number of total messages in there. Another way is to have different, what I call reading speeds. It's more a skimming and scanning. It's not really reading, because you don't sit down and read the post unless it's really, really interesting. And I would say between 95 and 99% of the posts that I look at in Reader, I don't read. And and you start to get a feeling about how much, one feed is much better than the other, and others are not so good. So the best ones, I might spend one post per minute to look at the RSS feed and look at the information in there and decide whether I want to read the post. One example for me anyway is wait a second here, is Stephen's Web. This is from Stephen, what's his last name? Hugh, what's his last name? Stephen Downs.
Shaw?
Yeah, Downs.
Steve-
Who is a Canadian, and he's one of the people that started up MOOCs. I've been following him for years and years. He's, for me, one of the best things about education. He puts in too much philosophy sometimes, but focuses on very, very valuable stuff for educational technology. And so I pay attention to more, and he posts maybe 20 or 30 a week. So not so many, but there's another rate of looking at posts where I read about 10 per minute, and they're less specific and medium quality. And they're, for example, free technology for teachers. And this guy posts about grade school stuff, educational technology for grade school kids in the US. And so there's not a lot of overlap. But he does have a lot of good, he focuses on tools a lot, which is valuable in some ways. So that's a medium one for me. And then 100 posts, probably, I'm exaggerating here, it might be 30 or 40 posts a minute. So to just kind of crank through, and things that are not so relevant or low quality, or if there's high frequency. So you've got something that's like Larry Ferlazzo, who's another grade school teacher. He teaches, what do you call it? Second language learners. So it's in a way more focused, but he posts like 10 or 12 a day. And it's a huge amount. Yeah. And I'll come back at the end of the week and there's 100 posts to look at, so I'll crank through that in 3 or 4 minutes. I might find one that is useful anymore. He kind of goes over other stuff. Another example is something called The Verge, which is kind of technology in general. It's not even educational technology. And here there's 244 posts, and there's, I would say, 50 a day in there. So you crank through those a lot more quickly than others. Okay. So the RSS, there's lots of ways to manage that. And again, curation is a real key to get the best ones for you. And it's not the same as the ones for me. Everybody's a little bit different, but RSS is not the only fire hose. There's more fire hoses. If you go to Substack, there's quite a few newsletters you can get. Now, newsletters are similar to posts, but they come in your email. And this is the RSS kind of went out of favor maybe 5 or 6 years ago when this company called Substack started doing newsletters. And they found out that people read email more often than they read blog posts and things like that. Substack is not as nice because it's not as well organized. Your RSS reader puts everything in once, it holds it, it organizes it, and then you can come and do it whenever you want. And the Substack newsletters comes into your email, and you have to organize it and put it in, places, and then read it. And there's no, how do you say it? There's no abstracts to look at. So definitely not as good. Then there's, of course, journals in the field. Reddit is another discussion board that has stuff on it. There's Facebook groups, Twitter groups, and Mastodon. Mastodon is similar to Twitter. Those kind of, each has people in it that are discussing these issues, and easy to find those. But for me, you start with RSS and then keep these until later. We will go into some journals later in the course. A specific one is language learning and technology. And we'll do that. But for now, pare your RSS feed down, and I'll keep checking in occasionally on your RSS feed if you have anything. We do have some time here. Does anybody have any reactions to any RSS posts this week?
I like
Not this
using
week, but last
newsletters
week I
like
saw.
that.
Sorry.
Penny, you haven't talked tonight. Go ahead.
Last week I saw a really nice one on how to detect if something is GPT or not, or it's genuine human. That was a really nice post. Some tools that people have come up with, though probably it'll change.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a nice one. I put that as a read later. How do I, if I wanted, I can't delete, can I, on iReader? It just puts it as read, puts it as it were on hold, right?
Delete what?
Delete. You can delete a feed, but can you have if your feed is live, you can't delete particular posts. Right?
No, yeah, that just kind of remains there. If once you read it, it gets deleted from your computer.
Right,
It's
right,
actually,
right.
it's really in the cloud mostly. Almost all of it is
Okay.
in the cloud. But that's the other thing, the technology that I was going to address at the end of the class today was note-taking. And let's do it right now. Thank you for getting into that. I use a note-taking thing called Evernote. There's OneNote. There's many others. I'm sure everybody has their favorite, right? And to make it very, very easy to save it, what I do is if I find something really good, then I move it from InnoReader over into my Evernote. And there's
It's a quick way of doing that, Kevin.
Yes, a one-click way. You can set it up so that InnoReader will feed into your. So you have to register your Evernote with InnoReader, and then there's a button that you can click and says send it to Evernote.
How do you register your? Because I use Evernote, but
Oh,
how do I
excellent.
register it with Evernote?
Okay, and in InnoReader, there's a setting, let me pull that up. Let's see. Well, I tell you what, let's leave that for the end of class, and those that are interested, I can show the specifics about how to set up the connection between InnoReader and Evernote. Feedly works even better with Evernote than InnoReader does. It's more closely connected. And so it depends on which reader you use and which note-taking app you use. But again, in Evernote, I have, well, here, let me show you Evernote. Let me pull it up and share my screen. Too many windows open here. Share my screen, and where's Evernote? Huh. Oh, here we go.
It works very smoothly with Feedly on a phone.
Yes. Well, they're designed to work together. Yeah.
Mhm,
So I've got on the left here, these are all my notebooks. And I've got, classified into language. Let's see. Yeah, teaching skills and administration. So when I find something in InnoReader, then I post it over here and put it into a specific folder so that it's there. I call this my second brain, so I don't have to remember stuff. And it also, helps me organize, and I can go back. Also on the internet, especially with ed tech, things tend to like disappear from the internet. And if you want to go back, a couple of years or even 10 years, you might be able to find something that was not in your Evernote that's not on the web anymore. So there's two advantages to doing that. And so I find it takes a long time to really see the value of putting all those notes in one place in there. But over the years, it's become much more helpful for me, especially as I get older and I forget stuff. There's one item here in the course that I keep going back to try to refer to, and I mistyped it. And so I'm still looking for that, but it does help. Yeah, a lot. Good. Let's see. Anything about RSS feeds? Anything else?
I'll just
oh,
say, Kevin, I have gone back to NetNewsWire, and I don't know if there's a Windows version or not, but there is definitely the Mac version, which is preferable to me. And I can share, so I can save things as PDFs into DevonThink 3 or any other sort of advanced archiving software. And I usually take notes in either Tinderbox or just in a text editor. And then I save my notes into a folder. And I also use Ulysses, which is great because it goes on the iPad or phone or computer. So it's pretty tech.
okay, so he's mentioned some really good tools here. Yes. And again, I think everybody has their own tools. And if you're curious about any specific tools, please ask. Everybody has their own favorites, but
I have one request.
okay.
Anybody consider themselves a Padlet genius or guru?
Oh, yes, we do have one here. Catherine, right? You did a presentation last week on Padlet.
I don't know if I'm a guru, but I'm a very, very big fan and big user. What's your question?
Yeah, how do you use it? What do you think its advantages are?
Okay, I think
Let's give her some time. to think about that. Yeah, and that's kind of a general question, and it's a little bit off topic. So, how about we
Yeah.
save that for next week, and then you can
Okay.
come in, and we can build that into the discussion for next week. We will have a
Okay.
little bit more time next week because we've already covered SAMR, SAMR. We'll go into TPAC next week and some of the other things. I'm not going to really touch on note taking anymore in the future. And I'll just assume that you know how to take notes and collect these kind of things. And that finishes the first part of the FILM, the film, finding stuff using InnoReader and Evernote, or using any kind of RSS reader and some kind of note taking to collect all of this data. And that brings us to the second step, which we'll start next week, which is investigate. And yeah, so
Is NetNewsWire, is that an app?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not familiar. I wasn't familiar with any of the apps that you mentioned. Okay, NetNewsWire, okay.
I put a note in the chat, and I'll maybe I'll add notes on the forum, a
Okay.
little description of the app, some of the apps that I use regularly.
Okay, please do. Okay, where is this? Okay.
there was an RSS feed from if anybody's interested in Chat GPT. If we go to edgeofcall.net, I'm going to share the screen here. We can see the latest post by this guy named Kevin Ryan in Edge of Call is this theoretical, this one by Ted Chiang, and this it's a New Yorker article, a little bit hard to get in. The firewall is kind of tricky, but this New Yorker article, I hope it's going to let me come here, is about Chat GPT, and he kind of gives a really good description. He's a science fiction writer, so it's very well written, but he does know technology very well. And so his reaction to Chat GPT is one of the more interesting ones. We got people, and we will talk more near the end of the course about Chat GPT. But that was one of the things I found in my RSS feed. And did
I have
anybody
a
else find?
subscription to the New Yorker, so if anybody needs stuff from the New Yorker, I can make a PDF of an article and share it.
Another nice thing we do in some classes, and I hesitate to do this as a teacher, someone in previous classes, one of the students or one of the participants makes a Dropbox folder, and we just dump like research in there that's not, how do you say it, available. I go to the library occasionally and get lots of PDFs of good research and put those into the Dropbox folder. But as a school, as a teacher, I don't think I can do that. But if anybody else is interested to set up a Dropbox for sharing stuff that's that may be
Easy.
copyrighted, yeah,
Easy peasy.
sounds good. Thank you. You.
Especially journal articles that want to charge you 60 pounds for one article from something.
Yes,
You know, going, man.
Which is a question I have for down the road. Let's see, what is it? 3 and 4. I know this is week 2. Week 4 and 5. Week 4 and 5, I plan to use journal articles and have each one of us choose one journal on a specific topic. And it's academic. Is that a good idea? Are you guys interested in more academic related research, or do you want to just have, how do you say it, more hands-on, more ed tech in general? One of those is for writing evaluation, kind of like Grammarly. And another one is for oh, I can't remember
I'd be interested.
oh, Chat GBT, yeah. So right, oh, using translation and then writing automatic writing evaluation, which is like Grammarly. Those two are very tech related copy, and I've chosen 2 issues, an issue for each week. And in an issue of the journal, there's maybe a dozen articles, and I'm thinking about asking you to choose one of those articles and report back to the group on what. That seems okay. It's not too much of a heavy burden or too academic or anything like that. Okay, let's do that then. Sounds good. I have finished everything I need to get done. Are there anything that you would like to raise up on RSS feeds or on the syllabus or any specific topic that is coming at you?
Wait, so what's the homework for this week?
I will post it shortly after
Okay.
after the class. And there's
I'll be on
4 articles, one about SAMR, one
Mhm.
about TPAC, one about what's called ADDIE, and another one called RAT. And those 4 different kind of technology access thing. And they're about a page each.
Mhm.
And so read those and then bring reactions to that. And the technology we talked about is note taking, so I'm not going to do anything like that. So this will probably be the easiest week, this second week of stuff. So there's not as much now this week. And so from the following week, we'll move into the new and have more homework. Yes.
I've got a question, more like a dilemma. Why are they pushing so hard for schools to adopt technology? Okay, we had COVID and everybody had to work online, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure right now and it's being pushed. You have to use technology in class. You have to have some apps. You have to use that. And now you mentioned ADDIE, and I'm thinking, is this like preparing people to go 100% online and maybe asynchronous in the future? Because ADDIE is instructional design. It's basically you create a course and you release it, and thousands of students will take it in the future. I mean, that would be something interesting to discuss. What's going to happen in 20 years? Because I see no point in pushing technology so hard unless they want, I mean, we won't have any jobs, basically. They want to push teachers away. So you don't need them anymore because you have everything done asynchronously. That maybe would be something interesting to discuss. I don't understand. I understood it during COVID. I do not understand it now. And I like tech a lot. I use tech. I consider myself to be tech savvy, but sometimes I don't see why they especially in the States.
Well, okay.
Why? Why?
Well, I believe the reason is that they want to make people aware of the development, the need of development. So the teachers, the university professors should take probably courses and be aware what's ahead. And those who will work with these or learn about them. They will be probably teaching. All the rest will be probably not. So you have to continue pedaling, not to fall off your bike. This is the reason, I think. And AI, you have to manage it, to learn to manage it. But this is not the case with us, with secondary school teachers at the moment. Nobody is pushing us to do this or pressing, or there is no pressure actually. And if you choose to be up to date, you just learn. Otherwise, you don't. This is what I think, Andrea.
Many countries,
I
even
have a-
secondary, I'm not talking just about universities, because universities have been using LMSs and all this stuff for a long time. I see a pressure on secondary and even primary school teachers. And I attended an IATEFL, a talk at IATEFL last year, I think, and there was a university teacher who had recorded some kind of lectures, and he made video quizzes out of them. And then his question at the end was, okay, I created these are the university's property, intellectual property. They can now let me go and use my videos, and that's fine. And they're legally entitled to do that. Because he created the. So
Yeah, I want to add something that there's a
Okay.
different trend. I work with universities in South America, and we just had a visitor, and they have 50,000 students running an English program. And there's a trend, and I can turn to Penny with what happened with the Malag, what they tried to do. They're just all asynchronous with like a tutor teacher. So why are they doing it? Because you save. And you know, you're shaking your head. I agree with you, Penny. I don't think you can learn language like this at all. I'm at work, so I have to be quiet. But my boss hears me, he'll kill me. But it all boils down to money. And then I was speaking with another large university, and he said, yes, it looks like the trend is that we're going to go to asynchronous and give up the face-to-face, because language is expensive versus, you know, if it's introduction to chemistry, you can stick in 200, 300 people in a hall. And language, you know, you're limited. And I see that it's a trend worldwide now, what's going on. And it's a shame, because that's not how you learn languages.
well, maybe it is, maybe, I mean, this is the kind of research I'd like to see. I mean, can you actually learn it asynchronously? Can you actually, or it may be in a blended format? Because in the
Blended, you
States,
can.
there are these charter schools, and I did a course like, I think 5 or 6 or 7 years ago in charter schools. I was mind blown about that. So the way they work, I said it then, and I still think that now this is the future. The thing is, they don't need teachers. They need subject matter specialists, so content creators and facilitators who don't need to be teachers. And everything is done on tablets. What do you call it? When I take a test, they give me the results, and if it's low, they send me to watch the lecture again. If it's good, they send me to watch another lecture. What's it called?
Personalized learning,
Yeah, but there's
differentiation.
it's differentiated, it's personalized, but there's a term for it. Okay, so for example, you take a test, adaptive, yeah, that's the one. Adaptive learning. So it would be interesting to look into the future. I mean, everybody's so happy and so excited about ChatGPT and all this technology, but I really start to feel, you know, to feel worried about not having a job in 20 years. I mean, are we becoming irrelevant? Are we even needed if we've got all this tech?
But there's also research on teacher presence and the importance of it. So,
yeah, but it was done
you know,
before all the technology. So it would be interesting to see something 2023 onward, well, 2022 onwards. We keep saying, you know, learning is social. We need presence. We need to build rapport. And at the end of the day, I ask myself, do we really need that? Because that's what they said about online during COVID. Oh, no, we need to be face-to-face because that's the only way you learn. And now people choose to do the online classes because they learn all the same. Is the next step choosing asynchronous classes because it's all the same? I mean, I don't know. I have these thoughts. I'd love to discuss
I
this
do.
with someone.
I know my students much prefer face-to-face teaching over online. And part of that's burnout from the pandemic and overuse of online stuff, or really bad use of online teaching. And so I think there is currently a real backlash against online things, even though that there's a push by the administration or people that you were saying. But yeah, there's every element, and you said blended, and I think that is probably the best solution to balance those kind of things. Are people familiar with blended learning here?
Yeah.
Do I need to? We don't need to really go through that. Okay, good. And yeah, I can understand your concern. The book that Alexander has for his course, Selwyn, I've been reading that this week, and he talks about a lot of that situation in one of the chapters. I can summarize that and bring it back next week. And
What's is the book there? Is it listed? I can find it.
it's in Alexander's and Selwyn is the name. And what's the book title? Something about technology in the classroom or something
Is
like
this
that.
the
I'll-
one
I'll
that
put-
that Hugh quoted in the chat?
Yes, it's
Okay.
called Education and Technology Key Issues and Debates,
What year was it published?
came out last
2021.
year.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, okay.
It's the third edition.
So technology. Okay, I'll find it.
Education
we'll
and
post it, yeah.
Technology Key Issues and Debates, Neil Selwyn. You can find it. I copied from my Kindle version in the chat. So you'll
But
see the
Andrea,
citation.
this is a wonderful question, and because I've been saving stuff in my Evernote, I'll be able to pull that out and put it into, give you some references in the area that will show, why face-to-face teaching is not going to go away, especially for language teaching, and why attempts will be made to do that. The thing that I see is that the biggest problem that we're going to face is that with translation software so good, people are not going to see a reason to actually learn foreign languages as
Right.
much. So our market will go way down.
Ah,
Except, well,
yeah, we'll see.
Right.
I'm gonna check the book. Thanks.
That's and okay, good. Yes, and we'll post something about that. I'll make a discussion in the group and see if we can get messages up there about this topic as well. So I'll add that too as a kind of side discussion. Okay, that sounds
Sounds great.
good. And thank you guys. I'm going to stay here, and if anybody needs help with any kind of technical stuff and getting things linked up or connected, or if you have any specific questions about your personal situation, I'll be around for a while. I'm going to turn off the recording now, and